So I'm going to talk a little bit about the company that I've started is called ThriveActive Coaching Solutions. It's kind of a word I made up, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I've developed somewhat of a development framework that I think is going to be particularly useful for real estate agents as they grow their businesses and create the life that they want for themselves. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get into that, the goals, we're going to introduce the 7 pillars of the framework. I'm going to give you some practical strategies and resources to survive in what arguably is a very challenging market that we're in right now. And then I am going to ask you a favor. Tomorrow, I start a boot camp for online course developers, and I am developing a number of online courses. And I'd love some feedback from you guys in terms of what you would find value in and give me some direction in terms of where to go with that. So that's what I have as goals for today. But before we get started, I want to share with you 3 stories. And the first story is about a guy named Leo. So Leo was an active and an energetic kid born in Los Angeles. His parents were divorced when he was a toddler. He was raised primarily by his single mom, and due to financial hardships, he was forced to move around a lot as a kid, living in tough, crime-riddled neighborhoods, drug-infested neighborhoods. At the age of 4, he regularly witnessed addicts shooting heroin or smoking crack in the nearby alley. To top it off, there was a major prostitution ring right on the corner of his street. When he was 16 years old, as a junior in high school, he was beat up and he decided, you know what, school isn't really for me. So he dropped out of school, although he did eventually get his GED. Now, I'm going to ask you, is that an environment where most people would thrive, or is that an environment where people would challenge? Quick show of hands or put it in chat. How many people feel that that's a thriving environment? Not too many. And yet that's the story of Leonardo DiCaprio. I don't know if you know his backstory, but that's his backstory. And I think we can all say that he's done pretty well. Here's another one. Joanne was a shy middle schooler described by her teachers as not exceptional. I heard that a lot in school myself. She was often bullied in school, formed a really close relationship with her mom, who tried really hard to instill a sense of confidence and enthusiasm in her. Her mom was diagnosed with an MS when she was 15, and her home became, in her words, a really difficult place to be. When her mom finally did die of the illness a few years later, she fell into a deep depression. She relied heavily on government assistance to get by. After her marriage failed, she found herself in a role as a single mom and fell even deeper into depression. She decided to leave the country and start to try over again as a teacher. Again, an environment for thriving or an environment for struggle? Some of you may know that's J.K. Rowling's backstory. So the question that I really want to dig into is what causes some people to thrive during adversity while others struggle? And does it really matter to real estate agents? A little bit more about me for those who don't know me. My name is Hal Benz. I earned a master's in clinical social work from NYU. I went on to earn a postgraduate certification in family therapy, another postgraduate certification in nonprofit management from Seton Hall University. Originally licensed as a licensed clinical social worker in 1991 with a specialty in medical family therapy. I've been a licensed real estate broker and real estate instructor now for over a decade, 20 years now in the real estate industry. And since 2006, I've been a managing broker, a team leader, productivity coach to some of the top offices, real estate offices in New Jersey. I first became really interested, though, in this question about why do some people thrive under adversity while others don't, back in the late 1980s when I started my clinical work with cancer patients. I worked in a nonprofit organization called Cancer Care and counseled family members and cancer patients to sort of live with the impact of those diagnoses. And then went on to go into the hospice community for over 12 years in that world. Certainly not necessarily a line of work that everybody would find gratifying, but I certainly did. And when I got into real estate, the question kind of became, how do we think about sort of surviving in the real estate in the real estate entrepreneurship? The question became one of business performance and grit and resilience. So I created my coaching company called ThriveActive Coaching Solutions to try to fill the gap between traditional productivity coaching, which is very business outcome focused, and life coaching, which is more personal, emotional, and well-being focused. And ThriveActive is a real estate performance, life coaching, and consulting company that's dedicated to helping agents grow and thrive, especially during times of change, challenge, and adversity. And let's face it, the market has shifted, right? This is an interesting quote. I'm a Giants fan, which meant that this has been a tough week for me and probably for many others on this call. But Bill Parcells, who is a great coach with the New York Giants, he has this quote, which is interesting. He says, "You are what your record says you are." And the challenge with that perspective, the challenge of an outcome-based identity is that there's times when the market conditions make it difficult. If you look at how do we define winners and losers in the real estate space, we do it based on production. And we have the gold levels, all the different colors of the New Jersey Circle of Excellence Awards, from bronze to gold to plutonium, all the different colors, right? We recognize in our company cappers as a way of determining who's a winner and who's not a winner, right? We recognize people by production in meetings, their pictures are on the wall, and really puts a lot of pressure on folks to perform, not just for their own income's sake, but really as a way of defining their self-worth and who they are, right? And the truth of the matter, though, is that markets go through very predictable cycles, right? Many agents right now are seeing a decline in their sale volume and in their income. And in a cyclical industry like ours, your identity should never be tied to your production, right? It's a complicated message that there's a lot of coaches out there sharing, and I'm going to share it with you. And I've been guilty of saying this at times. Here's the message, and it's a tough one. We're in a low inventory market, which we are. There's not enough business for everybody, but there's enough business for you. Get after it and get your unfair share. And I think this is a message which inspires some, is well-meaning for many, and yet it's a complicated message, because what's implied is that if somehow in a shifted market you're not able to keep pace and your business isn't still growing, that somehow that's on you. Now, here's another perspective. In a business driven by cyclical market demand, some years are up and some years are down. That's just the way it is. The risk of chasing growth at all costs is that it can push you to sometimes sacrifice your values and sometimes sacrifice your happiness. Now, this is a quote from Tony Hsieh. Some of you may know him from Zappos, right? The founder of Zappos. He says, chase the vision, not the money. The money will end up following you. I think a better message can be, we're in a low inventory market. There's not enough business for everybody. And yet there are things you can do to help yourself perform at your best while dealing effectively with the stress of uneven market volume and personal production. Regardless of what happens, you are not defined by your production record. But let's face it, the cheese has been moved, right? This is just a snapshot that I pulled. This is broker metrics. I pulled it from the Garden State MLS, which is what I have access to, not the NJ MLS. But I think you can sort of see the trends. It's not complete data, but it paints the picture. If you look at a 2-year history, sale volume is down, under contract volume is down, solds are down. We know this. Now, for many agents, the fact that prices have gone up has been a saving grace, because for many agents, we've been able to close less unit volume and not necessarily have it impact our income as much because the sale prices have gone up. But make no mistake, the metric that you need to be tracking in your business is unit volume, not dollar volume, because unit volume is really the true barometer of whether a business is growing or whether it's shrinking. And if you look right now in demand, it's still a crazy hot market right now. If you look at 2-year trend right now, absorption rates are still, I think it's 1.8 months, roughly 2 months in Bergen County. We think of a normal, healthy, normalized market at somewhere between 5 and 7 months of absorption. We've not seen a market like that in 10 years in New Jersey. So if you're in the business less than 10 years, you've never seen a normal market. And so one of the things that begins to happen is we have sometimes a perspective that's not always accurate in terms of what normal market cycles look like and feel like. There was a study that was commissioned earlier this year of 2,000 real estate agents conducted by the Consumer Federation of America that found 49% of the agents in the survey closed fewer than 2 transactions in 2023. Changes in the regulatory environment, right? I think we all know a little bit about that with changes in commission structures and representation agreements. It just puts additional stress on agents. And, an investment banking firm, Keefe, Bruyette, and Woods, projected that 60 to 80% of all the realtors in the United States may leave this industry over commission structural changes. Now, I did a similar presentation to this one at another brokerage in the Keller Williams universe last week. And when I threw that number out there, there were some sort of silent cheers in some of the back corners because the belief was that there's just too many agents out there. Even the National Association of Realtors projected that with the changes in the inventory and the changes in our industry, that we see a 10% drop in agent volume. It's only been 2%. So we're not, it just isn't happening. But the questions that I think you want to ask yourself are these. Number one, am I working harder right now to maintain the same level of success that I had in the past? Is my business pipeline where it needs to be to reach my financial goals, the goals that I have for myself and my family? And this, when I talk to agents, is one of the biggest stressors. It's that the pipeline seems like it's so thin. How do I feel when I think about the current market conditions and the industry changes? How effective do I feel in managing my work-life balance amidst all the demands of my career? And then number 5, do I have a clear vision for my professional future? And am I taking actionable steps towards achieving it? Right? These are the questions that I ask you to think about. And I know that sometimes they can be a little bit challenging in a market like this. So I'm going to ask you to just take a deep breath. You know, breath work is a big part of the work that I do because I think it helps us to slow down and center and get grounded again, because the bottom line is that we can take things back. What have I learned through the years of working with people facing life-threatening illness, of working with agents at all different levels of the career? I've learned some things about what it takes to thrive. Is it genetics? Is it environment? Is it luck? Is it something else? The truth is that thriving is a skill-based process that can, and I believe should, be learned. And we can teach how to do that. Becoming ThriveActive, that's a word that I said earlier that I made up. I named my coaching company the ThriveActive Coaching Solutions, right? So look, Mom, I made up a word. I'm going to do that again. I was really proud of that graphic. That's probably the best part of the program right now is just watching that graphic move, right? But what does it mean? It means to be actively engaged in or committed to flourishing, to growth, and to development. It means characterized by dynamic and proactive efforts to achieve personal and professional success and well-being. To become ThriveActive is almost like an inoculation. It helps you navigate adversity and challenge by proactively becoming stronger and more flexible in key aspects of your life. It's like, I believe I heard Jason Abrams at MegaCamp talking about anti-fragility. You know, that's a core aspect of building a sense of strength and endurance proactively, right? Becoming ThriveActive is a lifestyle that empowers you to strive to perform your best regardless of what life throws your way. Now, a lot of times when I talk about this stuff, I get some agents in the room and some of the top, folks who are, type A's and driven, and they're like, look, I don't have time for all this woo-woo stuff. Just show me how to find more seller leads. Enough of this soft science, just teach me the skills and the knowledge. And it doesn't matter about motivation and attitude and all these things. This is soft science. It doesn't matter. Well, I want to talk about lead generation for a minute and finding seller leads, because that is one of the biggest challenges and one of the areas that I do focus on. The research shows that something that I think we already know, prospecting for new business is the hardest part of being in sales. 42% of all salespeople across all sales professions say that prospecting is their number one problem. More than closing, more than qualifying, it's prospecting. It's finding new business. There's this wonderful quote, just do it. Yesterday you said tomorrow. I love this sort of meme here about just do it. I think I heard Mel Robbins at Family Reunion last year talk about the quote, just do it. And she says, of all these words, just do it, we think sometimes that the words do it are the most important. And I know that they've got everybody here on mute and I've got you off the camera as the PowerPoint is up, so I can't really engage too easily. But some of you may remember what she said, that the most important word in that whole phrase, that whole just do it, is the word just. Just do it. It acknowledges that there's challenges. It acknowledges that it's not easy. And yet it asks you to just do it anyway, right? Just do it. Just push through. But the reality is, when it comes to lead generation, is sales call reluctance is real. It is a real thing. There's a seminal book that was written years ago by George Dudley and Shannon Goodson. And they talk about the 12 common ways that sale call reluctance and hesitation around self-promotion show up in professional real estate agents and salespeople in general. And that each one of these 12 can be overcome with a properly trained coach. Right. There's an assessment tool that I use in the work that I do. I've got a partner that I work with on this. There's an assessment called the SPQ Gold Assessment. And it's an assessment tool for sales professionals that measures it measures call reluctance. It's been around for over 20 years. It's the only validated, researched, and validated tool to really get down to the issue of sale reluctance. It's been administered over 80,000 times in the United States. And it's a tool that I have a partner with. If somebody's interested in that, it takes about an hour and 15 minutes to conduct this assessment. We can go through what it says, and we can go through the areas where sales call reluctance could be holding you back. And it's not just telephobia, guys. That's one of the 12. There's all kinds of things from people that feel the need to over prepare to people that just sort of reject the idea that they're in sales and sort of see salesmanship as sort of, kind of smarmy and slippery and they want to be educators and they want to be other things. There's a lot of different ways that it shows up. And if people want to learn more about this assessment tool, you can message me. I'll give you my contact information in a little bit, and we can talk about this and we can make this happen for you. What I've done is I've created a simplified version. I said I would give you some resources. I've taken that tool. I've condensed it down to just 12 questions. And if anybody would want to just take this free self-assessment, this lead generation self-assessment tool, you can just get your camera out now and get your phone and just scan this QR code, because it will take you to a place where you can get a copy of this. And again, it's 3 pages long. It's just 12 questions, and there's a simple scoring. You can score yourself, and you can start to see where are the areas where you're having the most impact and where are the areas where perhaps some support and some coaching could help. I have some, I'll put these links up a little bit later on as well. I want to keep moving, but go ahead and download that if that's something that would be of interest to folks. But make no mistake that the top performers, not only do they get the best training, and I would believe that in many ways, Keller Williams, hands down, is the best training in the real estate industry. But top performers also rely on life coaches to help them navigate the mindset issues and the performance and the personal growth issues that lead to success. And here's just a handful of very successful, I would say, athletes and entrepreneurs and performers and musicians and people that you recognize. All of them are very public about the role that life coaching has played in their ability to succeed at the highest levels. So what do I actually do? How do I become ThriveActive if that's a real world? Well, we'll get there. But before we do, I just want to share one more story. And this is a story about Roger Bannister. Some of you may know his story, some of you may not. But Roger Bannister is a doctor. He was actually a medical student. Until the mid-1950s, it was widely believed that human beings were physically incapable of running a mile in less than 4 minutes. Medical experts actually believed that the cardiovascular and muscular and skeletal systems just couldn't do it. They believed that the respiratory system would fail, that your heart would explode. Well, Bannister was a medical student at the time in the 1950s. He was an amateur runner, and he took a very scientific approach to the elements of running. And he changed his training protocols entirely. He focused on higher intensity and shorter interval runs. He paid special attention to physical recovery. He incorporated visualization into his practice. And on May 6th, 1954, as an amateur runner and medical student, he became the first human being in the world to run a mile in less than 4 minutes with a time of 3:59 and 4/10 of a second. And as interesting and as fascinating as the story goes, the reason why I shared it is because it doesn't end there. The most fascinating part of the story to me was only 46 days later, on June 21st, his record was broken by his rival, John Landwith, with a time of 3 minutes, 57.9 seconds. And you know what? According to Wikipedia, as of June 2022, the 4-minute mile barrier has been broken by over 1,700 agents. The most important barrier that was broken that day was not the 4-minute mile. It was the belief that it couldn't be done. And I'm just going to throw that out there because I think for many people right now, many of the agents that I talk to, there is sort of this nagging belief that maybe I can't do it. That maybe I'm too set in my ways. I'm too old to learn new technologies. I'm not techie to begin with. We have all the reasons why we can't do the things that we really can do. And I'm here to tell you that there's a pathway to get there. Become the agent who thrives regardless of what life throws your way. With the right processes, the human brain is built for learning new skills and adapting to new beliefs throughout all stages of life. Now, it's true that we grow the most during infancy and during childhood, and challenging ourselves to stretch and grow becomes even more critically important in adulthood and later life. It's been scientifically proven that the human brain is able to develop new neural pathways deep into your 90s. And there's a lot of research right now that says if we don't find ways to challenge ourselves and do hard things as an adult, we become more susceptible to the kinds of aging-related disorders like dementia and things like that. So I would contend that being an entrepreneur sets the stage. And for those of you like me who had a career change later in life, I think the opportunity sets the stage for you to really begin to thrive and really, have an even better future. The term we use in the medical community and brain research is neuroplasticity. It's the term used to describe the brain's ability to grow and to adapt to new learning and to new experiences. And models and frameworks that are rooted in scientific best practices give us the best opportunity to succeed in learning new things because they simplify complex issues by breaking them down into manageable parts. And then they help us to rewire old neural pathways in the brain. The scientific roots of the ThriveActive Framework, which I'm going to share with you in just a moment, is based in health psychology and neuroscience and sports psychology and functional medicine and business theory and business strategy, cognitive behavioral psychology, and just good old-fashioned common sense. So what are the 7 pillars? I went back, I took the summer off a little bit as a summer sabbatical to kind of rethink my last 35 years as a therapist and as a coach and the experiences that I had in working with cancer patients and folks who are terminally ill and working with business owners and business entrepreneurs, and really started to try to synthesize that together and try to kind of come up with my own sort of unique voice in the coaching space. And what I've put together is this framework that has 7 pillars that I believe that if we focus on these 7 core pillars, we're going to have the best chance possible to live the lives and the businesses that we want to have. So what are the 7 pillars? We're going to touch on them. I'm going to do a slightly deeper dive on 2 of those. But together they spill out the word destiny. The D stands for direction. The E stands for endurance, something that's absolutely critical if you're going to be an entrepreneur. S, service to others. T stands for tribe and community. I, innovation. So immensely important right now when we try to adapt to changing environments is we have to become innovative and find ways of doing things differently. N is about nurturing. Y, about yearning. Let's do a quick dive and unpack each one of those for just a minute. And then I will spend a little bit deeper dive on a couple of them. But I want to start with direction. And it's about purpose. It's about values. It's about understanding and clarifying your core values and purpose. It involves what I believe is super important, which is creating a life purpose statement. This is a statement that guides your decisions and your actions toward meaningful goals. By aligning your actions with your values, you create a clear path that leads you to personal and professional fulfillment. One of the things that I find that leads to burnout and leads people to want to leave the corporate world, it burns people out in the entrepreneurial world, is when we find that our daily, day-to-day actions are not in alignment with our core values. The first part of the framework, the pillar, is this direction. And we spend a lot of time clarifying, our values and our virtues and putting together these kinds of purpose statements. I told you earlier that endurance, the second part of the framework, resilience and strength, and it's just so important if you want to become an entrepreneur, because I don't think anybody tells you just how physically and emotionally demanding becoming an entrepreneur is. Endurance focuses on building the mental and physical resilience needed to thrive during challenging environments. It includes developing mental toughness and anti-fragility. It includes maintaining good sleep habits, practicing mindfulness, engaging in regular exercises, and maintaining proper nutrition and hydration. By building endurance, you ensure sustained high performance and the ability to overcome obstacles. Again, I think it was this idea of the physical stamina that it takes to really thrive as an entrepreneur. Much of what we get into when we teach the ThriveActive work is the same principles that are taught to Navy SEALs. Now, I'm not going to ask you to go underwater and hold your breath for 7 minutes, but I will ask you to sometimes to do challenging and physically challenging things. And we can talk more about that as well. The third pillar is service to others, impact and contribution, emphasizes the importance of giving back and making a positive impact on the community. One of the things that I saw as much as any when I was doing work with hospice patients, and because I had the opportunity to kind of take that journey with hundreds and hundreds, maybe over 1,000 patients who were dealing with the end of their life. And I think it's really an opportunity to kind of look back and think about legacy. And we touch on that again in the yearning pillar. But there's so many times I heard people sort of go back and regret how much time they spent on stuff that just didn't matter and took time away from the people and the relationships that really did matter. Service is about volunteering. It's about mentorship. It's about random acts of kindness that build trust and foster strong relationships. By serving others, you enhance your reputation as a business person and you gain personal satisfaction. Tribe is about support and collaboration. It highlights the value of building and nurturing a supportive network. It includes engaging with your community, expanding professional connections, and fostering collaboration and accountability. It's about creating your own tribe to gain access to the resources and support that are essential for growth and success. I think there's a couple of folks in our universe who've done a great job of that. I think James Shaw has done a great job of creating an incredible job. And D-Rad, I don't know if you're on this call or you're not. There's 104 of you, but if you're on this call, hats off to you, my friend, because you have created an amazing tribe. And I'm going to tell you that the work that you've done with Push has been inspirational for me in thinking about the voice that I want to create for myself in this space. So hats off to you, my friend. Innovate.
Thank you, sir.
You got it. Innovate is about creativity. It's about adaptability. Innovation encourages embracing change and fostering creativity to stay competitive. It involves developing a growth mindset and not seeing change as a threat, but seeing change as a necessary part of growth. It encourages continuous learning, adapting to new changes and innovation and opportunities. It allows you to remain flexible and responsive during stressful and changing environments. And right now, what I'm seeing in the face of all the legislative changes that are going on in our industry right now is I'm seeing innovation that I haven't seen before in terms of different ways that we can adjust and adapt. And I think it's great to see. Nurturing. Self-care and well-being focuses on this, the emotional well-being, promoting a balanced and fulfilling life. Now, this is where a lot of my woo-woo friends want to jump out, right? This is about practicing affirmations. It's about the messages we tell ourselves. It's about self-compassion and maintaining online digital health and well-being. What do I mean by online digital health? I mean being really clear about how you engage in social media, how much you engage and how you engage, because for many of us, this is a big challenge. For many of us, social media is one of the primary engagement platforms that we have to engage our tribe and to communicate and grow our business. I get it. It is an important thing. I remember early on, one of my early mentors said, real estate's not that hard. You just got to go where people are and talk about real estate. Well, people are online. But make no mistake, social media platforms have been engineered. The algorithms have been engineered by, millions and millions of dollars spent to social scientists who find a way to jerry-rig the algorithm to get you to engage with it. And what social scientists understand is the things that will generate engagement faster and more assuredly than anything else are the things that make you mad and the things that make you afraid. And so the more time that we spend in that environment, the more we get exposed to an environment that sucks us into emotional reactivity, and it's not good for us. I recognize that it's part of the business that we're in, but I do believe that maintaining an online presence means that we have to be purposeful about engaging on our own terms. And it's certainly something that I would encourage you to think about. Nurturing ensures that you take care of your mental health and maintain a healthy work-life balance. or counterbalance, if you will. And then the final of the 7 pillars is the one that I call yearning. It's about passion. It's about impact. It's about being driven by your passions while creating a life of meaning and impact. And this is what I really was getting to a lot in the work that I did with folks who were nearing the end of their life. When they look back and they decide, what has it been about? What was I here for? And what impact did I make? It's the energetic state that occurs when your vision for the future is in alignment with your values and your purpose. Yearning is about actively taking steps to make positive difference in the world. It motivates you to overcome obstacles and to leave a legacy behind. So those are the 7 components, I call them pillars, of the ThriveActive framework, or the pillars of the framework. And look, if you want to learn a little bit more about how you can employ those in your business right now, I have another resource for you. I've taken 5 tactics that come out of this framework, and I've created the 5 essential tactics to help you thrive during today's challenging market. This is a handout, or it's actually so I don't know what it is. It's a PDF of sorts. You can scan that. You can download that. I'll put the link into chat as we get towards the end as well. But you can download that guide as well. And we take a look at 5 things that you can do right now to help thrive during the challenges of today's, difficult real estate market. So download that if you're interested. But I want to do a little bit deeper dive on 2. I said I would give you some resources. I've given you a couple. I want to do a little bit of a deeper dive on 2. I want to talk about endurance for a minute, because I think endurance is something that is just so... That's the piece that I didn't really anticipate getting into entrepreneurship for myself, is just how physically and emotionally demanding it was. And I want to go back to something that I think lies right at the cornerstone of our ability to have good stamina and endurance and resilience. And it really comes down to sleep. Now, sleep is your secret weapon. And we're going to talk about this. We don't have a lot of time to get deep into it, but some of you may or may not recognize this guy. This is Dr. Matthew Walker. He's at the University of California in Berkeley, and he runs a sleep lab there. This is his masterclass for those of you that are masterclass junkies, as I am, teaching the science of better sleep. And he says, sleep is the greatest legal performance enhancing drug that most people are probably neglecting. It's the single most effective thing that we can do to reset our brain and our body health every day. And he goes on, and I would contend that many real estate agents wear the lack of sleep as a badge of honor, as if to somehow prove that they're adhering to some unrealistic norm of some sort of hustle culture. In fact, just yesterday on LinkedIn, some of you may recognize this guy, Gary V., arguably one of the most prolific entrepreneurs of our time. Here's what Gary said yesterday on LinkedIn. He said, people are confusing their work ethic with how much time they're sleeping, and it leads to a ton of burnout and unhappiness. He says too many people have take pride in, I only sleep 5 hours, as a way to speak how much they grind. And then in typical Gary fashion, he goes on to say that they waste time on dumb stuff, useless meetings, 2-hour lunches, and wasting moments all day. What Gary says is be productive and strategic and not tired. There was a study commissioned by the United States Navy when they were studying fighter pilots, and just how acutely aware and astute and reflexive they have to be flying a Navy fighter jet plane, $35 million to build one of those. Here's what the Navy determined. Sleep deficits accumulate over time.
An
average of 6 hours of sleep or less, 4 nights a week or more, leads to a cognitive deficiency, which is the equivalent of having a constant blood alcohol level of 0.1, which in New Jersey is legally too impaired to drive a car. Now, I put it out there, and I just ask, how many real estate agents, kind of are functioning that way all the time. And I do not sleep well. I have to work at it. This is something that I have to work at because I don't sleep well at this stage of my life. Right. But that is just something that impacts our ability to make clear decisions. It impacts our judgment. It impacts our resilience. The quality of our sleep is just important as the quantity of our sleep. There are a lot of people who think that because they're not awake for a period of time that they're getting good sleep, when in fact there's stages of sleep. There's deep sleep, which is important to the restorative nature of the body. There's REM sleep, which is important in terms of integrating new learning. They happen at different stages of our sleep pattern over the course of the night. And just being not awake does not necessarily mean that we're getting good sleep. Alcohol and caffeine consumption impact that. Exercise habits impact that. Pre-bedtime routines, including exposure to screens, and I mean your computer, I mean your phone, 1 to 2 hours before you go to sleep will have a negative impact on the quality, maybe not the quantity, but certainly the quality of the sleep that you have. And I understand for many of us, we're on our computers all the time, we're on our phones all the time. I think that's something that we have to become more purposeful about. Can we make different decisions around that? And when we can't, because I get it, there's times when we do have to write that contract. There's times when we do have to be on our screens. But there are things that we can do. You know, the problem with blue light, which is what's emitted from our screens after dark, is that the problems become after dark. You know, the full spectrum of sunlight is important for all of us. You know, sunlight increases your energy, increases your metabolism. One of the best things you can do when you first wake up is to go outside and expose yourself to that light. But the kind of light, the blue light that's emitted from screens after the sun goes down, have a negative impact because they trick your brain into thinking that it's still daytime. It inhibits the production of melatonin, and melatonin is that hormone that tells your body it's time to power down, it's time to begin to sleep. You know, darkening your room are things that you can do to kind of help trigger that melatonin production. But then we get on our screens and we trick our brain into thinking that it's daytime again. It will definitely interfere with your natural sleep cycle, your circadian rhythm. So what can you do? Well, look, for just $13, you can go on Amazon right now and get a blue light filter for your screen. It's a simple, easy hack. Just put it on your computer and filter that blue light out. So if you do have to be on your screen, if your work requires you to be on, you can do it in a way that's not impacting your ability to get the quality sleep that you need. You can get these little things you can put on your glasses, little flip down, and that can block that blue light as well. There's a lot of different things that we can do. And when I do work with agents, a lot of the coaching that I do is to help them understand of how they can take some control of some of these things. That's just a quick scratch on the surface of endurance. I want to talk a little bit about innovation because I'm seeing a lot of innovation right now. And one of the places where I think we need to innovate is how we think about our unique value proposition. You know, this is the question that a lot of people are facing right now. I see this. I just pulled this, you know, this meme off of social media the other night. Is working with a real estate agent really worth it? This is the question. This is what we're being asked to defend all the time. It's a common question in the media. And, you know, it is absolutely important to have an understanding of what is your value proposition and what makes yours unique. You know, your UVP, your unique value proposition, is a statement that explains the benefits of your product or your service, how it addresses consumer needs, how it makes you different from other competitors. We understand that. A compelling UVP is an important way to differentiate yourself and attract your target audience. We get that. Here's what used to matter the most: market knowledge, negotiating skills, years of experience. I would contend years of experience probably doesn't matter as much as new agents think it does. Your unique marketing strategy, your use of technology, your track record, your results, all of the things. These are the things that we used to put out there as ways to pick me because I have this more and better than other folks do. I'm going to tell you right now, guys, these are just now the pay-to-play skills. Having these are the core basic skills of just getting into the game. You better have market knowledge. You better have a unique marketing strategy. You better have the ability to use technology. Again, I don't think years of experience matter that much. What I think matters more than anything else today and where we can innovate is in your UVP. Now more than ever before, your client relationship is your unique value proposition. In much the same way that Susan Scott, one of my favorite authors who wrote the book Fierce Conversations, talked about the fact that the conversation is the relationship. I'm going to tell you that your relationship with your clients is your unique value proposition. It's the only business asset that you own exclusively, the only one. And in time, others can learn what you know. They can do what you do probably better and faster and cheaper than you can do it yourself. That's just the nature of being in business. The one thing that they can't take away is the quality of the relationship that you have. I love this quote. Maya Angelou, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. That is the competitive ground right now of how you win business. It's about bringing presence into your processes and not being so tied to your checklists, but being presence back in and limiting the distractions when you're with your clients so that you really get to know them in ways that go beyond the transaction. Knowing about them and understanding what are their hobbies, what are their passions, what are their fears. Ask the right questions and listen more than you talk. And then this is the key. Don't just ask the questions. You've got to write them down because you won't remember. Put them into your CRM, right? Keep those notes so that you can go back to them. There's a wonderful book that I love, Will Guidara. Some of you may know him. He's a restaurateur. 11 West Madison is his restaurant. I've never been there, but named in New York City the best restaurant in the world in 2017. And for those of you who know me, I'm a little bit of a foodie. If you jump on my Facebook page, you'll see lots of food stuff there. But he talks about unreasonable hospitality in his book, which I absolutely love. And he says, rooted in the belief that extraordinary moments of service, those that are often spontaneous, creative, and deeply thoughtful, can turn ordinary interactions into unforgettable experiences. Unreasonable hospitality reflects a commitment to generosity, an attention to detail, and to genuine care, where the goal is to not just meet someone's needs, but to delight and inspire them in unexpected ways. And the key here, guys, is unexpected ways. And if you've ever read the book, Will has lots of examples of how he's hired people and put them on the staff in the restaurant to walk around the dining room and listen to the stories that are being told and listen for opportunities. One that comes to mind for me is the story of a family that was having dinner one winter night. The family was from Spain. And as the weather began to turn, it began to snow. And the two little boys looked out the window and saw snow for the very first time. And they were just awestruck. As wonderful as the meal was, it paled in relationship to their very first snowstorm. And when the family got the check and as they were getting ready to leave the restaurant, a limousine pulled up and picked them up at the restaurant. And it took them to Central Park, compliments of 11 West, so that the children could play in the snow. That's the level of unexpected detail that we're talking about here. And I hear people tell me all the time, that's expensive, that's hard to execute. And the answer is yes. Yes, it is. And your unique value proposition right now is this relationship. How are you going to do it? You know, there's a bold law that I love that says spontaneity is a condition of reflex. And for a long time, I struggled with trying to get a sense of what that means. And for me, what that means is that when you have a process in place, when it's a conditioned reflex, when you've got a process that you execute well, and you do it in a way that's designed to create experiences that seem so out of the blue to the recipient, you have the opportunity to create magic. It's unexpected delight. And I would contend that we need to budget for that in our businesses. Guidara talks about the 95-5 rule. This is a rule that says that 95% of a guest's experience in any service industry is focused on doing things correctly and delivering what's expected. Those are the pay-to-play experiences. And believe me, the bar is getting higher and higher and higher in that game. It's the remaining 5%, the unexpected, the personalized, and the thoughtful touches that truly make the experience memorable. What would it be like if you had a random touch to a previous buyer client where you just reached out and said, you know, I remembered you saying how much you enjoyed fly fishing when we were house hunting last year. I came across this streamside fishing toolkit in a gift shop while visiting Maine this summer with my family. It made me think of you. I hope you get a chance to use it soon. Enjoy. Guys, that's $29.95 from LL Bean. And yet, these are the kinds of gestures that have to be budgeted for. At least it's my opinion. They should be budgeted for and they should be executed well. These are the kind of gestures which will make your client relationships bulletproof. Now more than ever before, your relationship is your UVP. It's the only business asset that you own exclusively. Does it deserve more than just an email drip campaign and some Costco pies at the holidays? Now, don't get me wrong. I would be thrilled if everyone on this call had an email drip campaign to stay in touch with their past clients. I know Al Donahue would be thrilled because they'd see probably 40% more business. And I'm not knocking the Costco pies because I think those are wonderful. And yet, increasingly, those things are becoming expected, sort of pay to play events. What I'm talking about is something that is different. Slow the process down, get to know your clients, and then make it your job to make them feel special in unexpected ways. That's the new game. If there's ways to learn more, if you want to learn more about all this stuff, I'm conscious of the time here. We're getting up to the top of the hour. There's things that you can do. You can join me. You can go to my new website, thriveactive.life. It is a .life website, which is sort of the space for life coaches. We've got a website there. There's a blog. There's a newsletter, soon to be launched, a YouTube channel. I do a Thrive Active coaching. That's sort of the brand name I give to the coaching that I do. It's business, performance, and life coaching. We can talk about that. And then coming this fall, and this is where I said I was going to look for a little bit of feedback. Coming this fall, I'm going to launch an online course on overcoming prospecting reluctance and the hesitation to self-promote. This is the number one bugaboo for everyone in sales, is sort of getting over this fear of lead generation. I'm joining a boot camp tomorrow of online course creators, and I'm looking forward to it. And this particular course, I'm targeting to be released in mid-October. There will be a workbook, there will be video and audio lessons, skill building techniques, lots of exercises there, assignments, downloadable resources. There will be a course-only self-paced version where you can just log in and chip away at it at your own time. There will be another version where you can jump in and then participate in weekly mastermind sessions to kind of really bring home the depth of that material. That's something that I'm looking to release in mid-October. But here's where I'm going to ask a favor. I really would ask you to just take a moment and scan this for me, because this is a Google form. I've got a number of different courses that I do have sort of that I'm thinking about. And I'd love your perspective on which are the ones that you think are worth developing and which are the ones that you don't. I put some links into the chat right now for all the resources that I've given you today. Those are the resources for the skills, lead generation, self-assessment skill set. There's the 5 essential tools to thrive in today's market. And this is the link to give me some really important feedback so I can validate and really create programs that you think would be valuable. There's nothing worse than spending the time and energy to create a course that nobody wants to attend. So if you would do that for me, I would be grateful. Let me close the chat here and just kind of move along here. We're at the end of the hour here. Is there any questions that you guys have for me in the minute or two that I think we might still have? I can't see you. I can